So hi and welcome to this another episode with me आशी एक और वीडियो के साथ मैं आपके सामने हूँ और यहाँ पे ये वीडियो वो स्टूडेंट्स देख रहे हैं जो कहीं ना कहीं कैट 2023 देने वाले हैं who are basically aspirants and dreaming to get into all these top B schools across India. So I have somebody with me. Please, Chinmay, introduce yourself so that will be easier for me and also to the audience to understand that what we are going to discuss in this episode. Yeah, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Chinmay Gokhale, born and brought up in Mumbai. I recently graduated from IIM Bangalore about 4 or 5 days ago. And just to tell a brief about myself, I did my engineering from BITS Pilani Goa campus in 21 and went into MBA as a fresher. And yeah, here I am out of Bangalore, and about 2 months I'll join my company.
Cool. So my first question, which I think a lot of viewers, a lot of aspirants come, जिनके दिमाग में एक question आता है that how to get into top B schools in India, especially when it comes to IIM A, B, C. CAT is the first main thing what you need to give. So what should be the preparation strategy? अभी 6 महीने हैं students के पास. So last 6 months की strategy क्या होनी चाहिए right from April?
So basically I started my prep around May. So I had some material. I took up, you have a lot of coaching institutes like Career Launcher, like Time, like IMS. So you can take their, offerings. They have questions for practice, they have modules to learn, and they have some mock tests. So if you ask me, my personal experience is that CAT is more of a practice oriented exam than a theory part. So even though you might give say 1 or 2 months for theory, the most important part is practice, the mock exams. You have to time yourself in those 3 hours or 2 hours depending on the format of the exam. You have to make sure that you can keep your cool and score as many questions as possible. So how I did it was I used May and June of my time for theory. I would go through the chapters, go through the formulas or the tricks or whatever it is, and then go through some practice questions. Parallelly, say by July, I started doing only questions, and August, September, and October were purely mock exams for me. So I had my internships, so I would do mock exams on weekends. And the most important part is to analyze those mocks. Like you give an exam, you get marks, but what next? So you need to see how wrong you were or how right you are, or is there a better way to solve a question? And what you can probably do is also, maintain an Excel sheet or something and track your performance. Like, are you really improving test after test? You don't want to give 2 months of mock test and realize that you did not really improve your performance, right? Because it's a relative exam. So getting X marks is not really something that you will understand how good or bad you are. What's important is you have to increase your performance day by day, test after test. So that's something that I did. And by November, when I realized that I was confident enough, so I felt that I'm in a good position to give the exam.
Yeah. So, I think you have told a kind of a strategy that how you have strategized for yourself. But दो चीजें होती हैं हमारे पास सेक्शंस हैं when it comes to CAT examination. कुछ सेक्शंस ऐसे हैं जो हमारा फोटे है, जहाँ पे हम अच्छे हैं, और कुछ सेक्शंस ऐसे हैं जो हमारे वीक पॉइंट्स हैं. तो इन दोनों को बैलेंस कैसे करना चाहिए स्टूडेंट्स को?
So again, from my personal experience, for me the logical reasoning and data interpretation was the easier one. So LRDI was where I knew I scored well. Verbal section was a little bit of a challenge for me. So basically what I realized was there are two basic ways through which you can get high marks. In the end, all that matters is the total sum should be high enough, right? So either you score decently well in every section, or you have your forte, as you said, and try to score at least above some certain extent in the other two, right? So I followed more on that second part. I knew LRDI was going to be a forte, so I wanted to maximize my marks in LRDI. What I did was obviously I devoted more time to the other two sections while I was preparing because I knew they might be a little weak for me. So for me, verbal was weak, so I would go through more articles, I would go through more and more passages, try to increase the speed of reading and keeping the accuracy constant. When it comes to quant section, there are two ways to do it. You can either attempt as many questions as you want and make sure that you have a decent accuracy, or you attempt less number of questions but make sure you get most of them correct. So for me, I realized that my accuracy was not really that good. So in the end, all I focused was answering as many questions as possible to make sure that I maximize my marks. So I guess in the end, it comes down to realizing your pattern as soon as possible, and then you can optimize based on whatever your performance is.
Okay. And I think, once you write the examination, you got your score 99 plus percentile, you get calls from all these B schools. एक second journey होती है जहाँ पे you have this VAT, you have this PI, you have GD, management की यही एक चीज है जो I think IIT से थोड़ा सा डिफर करती है. Let's say आपने JEE में अच्छा मार्क्स लेकर आए, आपकी रैंक बनाई, you get into IIT Bombay Computer Science Engineering. But when it comes to MBA, आपने CAT में बहुत अच्छा स्कोर कर भी लिया, then also you have to further go for the second round of shortlisting. तो कहीं ना कहीं उसके लिए, because जो calls आपके पास आए हैं, हर स्टूडेंट जो है प्रायोरिटाइज करता है कि मुझे जितने भी IIM से कॉल आए हैं उसमें से मेरा टॉप ABC में कहीं ना कहीं हो जाए. तो वो उनके लिए कैसे प्रिपेयर कर सकते हैं when it comes to the interview, when it comes to the GD, when it comes to the VAT? Yeah.
So once you get your marks and within a couple of weeks you get those calls, right? After that, the main part is first of all introspection, because interview in the end what IIMs do is they have a weightage. So they have X weightage to CAT score, X weightage to your interview, some weightage to your 10th, 12th graduation marks, and then you have other small metrics as well. So therein interview is going to be the major weightage after CAT. Your CAT score is already out, so that's something that is beyond your control now, right? So I was a fresher, so I did not get any points on the work experience part, right? So I knew that the only two things where I'll majorly get points was the interview as well as the CAT score. Now thankfully CAT score is something I had in my pocket, so I had to focus on the interview. Now the interview is something that is really very unpredictable. You don't really know what they're going to ask. They can completely focus on your academics, they can focus on your job experience, your internships, your sports. I know a couple of friends who had a 30-minute interview just on cricket, so it can be as vague as that. So all you need to know is first of all start introspecting. The questions related to why MBA now, what are your goals are really important, because they want to make sure that they take the most deserving lot into the campus, right? Because they want to make sure that you really want MBA and MBA wants you at the same time. So that introspection is important. So I started doing that around say December end or January to really understand why did I want my MBA, right? Post that on the side, you can start preparing on your academics. If you're a fresher, then they might ask you more questions related to your engineering or commerce or whatever background you have. If you have work experience, they'll ask you more on your leadership positions, on your impact of the work that you did, and so on. And parallelly, some focus on GK, current affairs, as well as your own hobbies. It's really important to have one or two hobbies and know decently well on what you have, because on the day of the interview, it usually proceeds in a way where you introduce yourself and then the interview goes on. So if you are able to drive them to the areas that you want them to ask questions, that is going to be the best part. So I knew since cricket was my strength, I wanted to drive them towards cricket. So I mentioned cricket in my introduction itself. Or say one of my internships was really well, I mentioned that internship in my introduction because I knew they will ask me questions and that's my strength. So I can then prove myself. You don't really want them to go somewhere where you don't want the interview to go. So that's the way you practice. You have all those mock exams that are offered by a lot of institutes. So it's really important to give those mock exams and also maybe practice with friends, but more importantly with strangers, because you need to be out of your comfort zone to give those interviews. Most interviews are pressure tests. So they'll probably say something, they'll ask you something, and if you answer, they'll say you're wrong and test how well you perform under pressure. So you need to get a hang of that as well. So it's a pretty, long process, like 2-3 months at least that it takes to get ready for the interview phase.
I think I'm done with questions where we were more talking about the preparation, how you are able to make it to all these top B schools. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your experience. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.